There was a time when a U.S. passport was your golden ticket to the world. You could cross borders as easily as walking into a friend's house, with few questions and minimal paperwork. The world welcomed you with open arms. However, in 2025, things have changed. With the same passport, you now need a visa to enter Brazil, and in Spain, you have to show proof of a substantial bank account. In Indonesia, a single wrong hashtag could get you deported, and in Japan, a vague itinerary might lead to rejection at the border. This isn't due to major conflicts or the pandemic, but rather a shift in how countries view American tourists. Once treated as VIP guests, Americans are now seen as ordinary tourists. So, what caused the world's most powerful passport to lose some of its luster? This article will explore how countries, from retirement havens to cultural destinations, are quietly changing their entry requirements for Americans. This is not a call for a boycott or an attack on any country, but an analysis of a real socio-economic phenomenon, supported by data and stories from both sides of the border. Let's delve into these changes before your next trip turns into a denied one. Brazil's new visa requirement. There was a time when traveling to Brazil was as simple as booking a ticket and packing a suitcase. However, it seems that door has now been locked. On April 10, 2025, Brazil reinstated visa requirements for U.S. citizens after more than a decade of visa-free travel. This means that if you don't have a visa, you'll be denied boarding, even if you've already bought your ticket and booked your hotel. This change is more than a minor inconvenience. It led to the last-minute cancellation of hundreds of flights. According to data from travel agencies, at least 30% of U.S. tours to Brazil in the second quarter of 2025 were canceled because customers didn't have time to complete the new visa procedures. Many couples canceled their honeymoons, and groups of friends lost thousands of dollars on trips that never happened. A single policy change caused entire plans to collapse. Officially, Brazil states this is a reciprocal measure. If the U.S. requires visas for Brazilians, Brazil will do the same for Americans. However, if you talk to people in São Paulo or Rio, you'll hear a different story. Many feel this change was long overdue and is a matter of fairness. As one person said, "They came here easily while we were made to struggle in America." The door of friendship has become the door of equal partnership. How would you react if you were stopped at the airport and your plans were ruined? Do you think Brazil's decision is fair, or is it sending a different message? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Spain's banking barrier. If you think Brazil's change is an exception, consider Spain. The beaches are still golden, but before you can enjoy them, you have to overcome a financial hurdle. For many Americans, Spain isn't just a destination. It's a retirement dream with its warm winters, excellent cuisine, and affordable cost of living. But in 2025, that dream has become more difficult to achieve. Previously, to apply for a non-lucrative visa, the most common visa for Americans wanting to live long-term in Spain, you only needed to prove you had around 35,000 euros in your account. This year, that number has nearly doubled to 60,000 euros. If you don't have enough, your request will be denied, regardless of how much you love Spain. In 2024 and 2025 alone, 40% of U.S. citizens' applications were rejected. These aren't just statistics, they represent shattered plans, down payments on houses that were never moved into, and packed suitcases that were never loaded onto a plane. The Spanish government says this is to ensure the financial capacity of visa applicants. However, people in Valencia and Barcelona tell a different story. Rental prices are skyrocketing, and locals can no longer afford to live in the cities where they were born. They believe wealthy foreigners are partly to blame. The phrase, "rich foreigners," is appearing more frequently in the press and on social media. A couple from Florida shared their story. "We sold our house and planned to move to Valencia for retirement, but we didn't qualify when the new regulations were issued. Now we've lost both our home and our dreams." For them, Spain is no longer a place for a peaceful retirement but a dream locked in a safe. What do you think? Is Spain protecting its people, or is it gradually closing its doors to those who want to call it home? South Korea's KETA requirement. If you think Spain is just raising the bar, wait until you hear about South Korea. where you can't even board a plane without a small electronic document called the KETA. In 2025, if you want to enjoy kimchi and stroll through Seoul, you first have to pass a new screening process. As of 2025, all American tourists are required to obtain a KETA, an electronic travel authorization, before boarding their flights. It sounds simple, but a slightly blurry passport photo or a hotel booking missing the checkout date is enough to get your application rejected. Since the KETA was implemented, over 22,000 applications from U.S. citizens have been rejected. These rejections don't just mean a few days' delay, they mean being stopped right at the check-in counter with ticket in hand and suitcase already checked. The entire trip is summed up in an email that simply says, "Application denied." The government says this is to manage tourists more effectively, but many Koreans feel differently. They want to preserve their culture, protect their community, and select their visitors. It's not about opposing America, but it's clear the door is no longer open to everyone. If South Korea has done this, Japan or Taiwan might follow suit. East Asia, once known for being easily accessible to American tourists, is now erecting new screening barriers. The red carpet at Incheon Airport is still there, but it's only rolled out for those who are pre-approved. Would you accept being rejected just because of a blurry passport photo or a small error in your application? Is this cultural protection or the beginning of a trend toward closure? Japan's silent screening. If South Korea is lightly locked down, Japan is quietly making things difficult without changing any laws. For many Americans, Japan embodies respect and safety, a country where a smile and a slight bow can bridge any gap. In 2025, that smile is still there, but the door is slowly closing. There have been no noisy new laws or grand announcements, but an increasing number of American citizens are being questioned closely or denied entry, even with valid documents. Common reasons given are that the itinerary is too vague or that the tourist is visiting too frequently. In some cases, travelers are required to provide a detailed explanation of each day of their stay right at the immigration counter. An American travel blogger said, "I've been to Japan many times and never had any trouble, but the last time I was held up at Narita for over 2 hours. The staff asked for details about where I was each day, who I met, and what I did. When I said I wasn't sure, they looked at each other and took me to a side waiting room." He was still allowed to enter, but the feeling of being scrutinized was something he'll never forget. Since mid-2024, Japanese immigration lawyers have noted a sharp increase in unofficial entry denials. At the same time, some surprising events have occurred, such as the arrest of an American tourist for painting graffiti on a temple gate. This incident received widespread media coverage, sparking a debate about cultural respect. You might think preparing a clear schedule is the solution, but sometimes the reason for rejection isn't even explained. A stern look, a shake of the head, and you'll be invited onto a return flight. Do you think Japan is being overly sensitive, or are they protecting their country from the influx of tourists? Indonesia's social media surveillance. Japan might be taking a small step back, but in Bali, Indonesia, they aren't just pushing back, they're kicking you off the island for a single misstep. One wrong hashtag and your ticket back to the US will be in your hands. Bali was once a paradise for Americans who loved the warm sunshine, freedom, and low cost of living. But in 2025, the Indonesian government has implemented unprecedented surveillance of international visitors, especially digital nomads and long-term residents. They monitor social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok to find people who are not complying with their visas. If caught working on a tourist visa, they are immediately deported. In just the first 3 months of 2024, 211 American citizens were deported from Bali. Many violations were simply for staying a few weeks too long or posting workation clips without a work permit. A social media story can turn a vacation into a short, embarrassing trip. The people of Bali are all too familiar with American tourists behaving as if they were at home. Rent prices are rising, cafes are packed with nomads working all day, and music and parties go on all night. The government wants to send a message. We still welcome you, but we will not tolerate a sense of self-entitlement. An American freelancer recounted, "I live streamed my work from a seaside cafe. A few days later, 2 immigration officers came to my hotel door. I didn't understand what was happening until they gave me the deportation papers just because I didn't have a work visa. It all happened in a week, and the Bali dream vanished like seafoam. You might think that as long as you don't show off online, you'll be fine. But in reality, they also receive complaints from the public, neighbors, landlords, and even other nomads. Do you think the Balinese government is being too strict, or are they justifiably protecting their environment? Turkey's digital baggage scrutiny. In Bali, you're scrutinized on social media, but in Turkey, a Facebook status or a tweet could lead to an interrogation at the airport. You can enter Turkey without a visa, but don't assume all doors are open. Here, what gets you into trouble isn't paperwork, but words. In recent years, some American travelers have been called back at the airport or invited into interrogation rooms because of content they shared online. This could be a regular social media post, a tweet, or a TikTok clip that accidentally touches upon sensitive topics. While no one calls it a ban, being questioned for hours is not a pleasant experience, especially when you are only there to travel. Human rights organizations and international tourism forums have documented numerous cases of foreign visitors, including U.S. citizens, being questioned about their online activity upon entry. There is no official list, but the stories are being shared more and more. The Turkish government is tightening cybersecurity controls and paying more attention to content related to politics, society, or culture. This isn't aimed solely at American citizens, but as they are a prominent tourist group, they are more easily noticed. Have you ever thought about how what you post on social media could affect your trip abroad? Do you think this is a justified protective measure or a new barrier for tourists? Argentina's reciprocal visa. In Turkey, they pay attention to what you say, but in Argentina, a new entrance ticket, a visa, is what stops you. Argentina was once one of the easiest destinations for U.S. citizens in South America. All it took was a plane ticket, a few clicks to book a hotel, and you could immerse yourself in tango, Malbec wine, and grilled barbecues. But now that open ticket has been closed. In 2025, Argentina officially reintroduced visas for U.S. citizens, ending over a decade of visa-free travel. Now, if you want to visit, you have to apply, wait for approval, and pay fees before you can set foot in the country. No more booking in the morning and flying in the evening. The Argentine government explains this as a reciprocal measure because the U.S. still requires Argentine citizens to obtain a visa. But beneath the surface lies a different reality: the highest inflation in the region, economic pressure weighing heavily on people's lives, and a cautious attitude toward wealthy tourists who visit but don't integrate into local life. The people of Argentina are still hospitable and warm, but the government wants to ensure that visitors are truly committed to respecting and connecting with the country, not just passing through briefly. You might think it's just another visa, but the procedures aren't always fast. For short-term trips, this requirement almost eliminates the possibility of flying to Argentina on a whim, a privilege many American travelers once took for granted. If Argentina has done this, neighboring countries like Chile and Uruguay could consider a similar move, and a South American journey could become a series of locked doors. The tango is still captivating, and the wine is still strong, but to enter the dance floor, you now need a special ticket, and that ticket is no longer free. Do you think this is a fair decision or a sign that the era of open access to American visitors has come to an end? Mexico's neighborly screening. Argentina is closing a door that was once wide open, but right on the southern border of the United States, Mexico, a familiar neighbor, is also showing that it is not as easygoing as before. Mexico, America's closest neighbor, is a place many consider their backyard, a short trip that doesn't require much thought. But in 2025, even this familiar door won't be as wide open as it used to be. American tourists can still enter Mexico more easily than many other places, but some border states have begun to tighten the length of stay for American visitors and enforce stricter security checks at major border crossings. Cases of incomplete or ambiguous declarations may now require you to turn back on the spot. According to reports from border travel agencies, the number of American tourists asked for additional documentation or denied entry has increased significantly in the past 12 months. The main reasons are concerns about border security, economic pressure, and the uncontrolled growth of short-term tourism. The government wants to maintain order and safety at tourist hotspots. A family from Arizona shared, "We drove to Baja for the weekend, just like we've done for 15 years. But this time, they asked us very carefully where we were going, for how long, and for what purpose. When they heard we hadn't booked a hotel yet, they advised us to go back and prepare more thoroughly." The vacation turned into a drive back home. Mexico wants to show visitors that they must respect community rules and safety. Even close neighborly relationships need clear boundaries in a complex socio-economic context. The surprising thing is that even tourists who have entered and exited Mexico many times without any problems are now feeling this change. That thoughtless habit has become a mandatory preparation step. If even Mexico, the closest neighbor, has started to screen, this trend could spread rapidly across the Americas. At that point, a U.S. passport will no longer be a priority pass in its own region. The back door, which you used to go in and out of at any time, now has a new lock. It's not hard to open, but you need the right key. What do you think? Is Mexico doing what's necessary to stay safe, or is it sending a signal that even its neighbors need to recalculate? The end of the red carpet era. From Brazil to Mexico, 2025 is revealing an undeniable truth. The freedom of movement that Americans once took for granted is changing. The doors aren't slamming shut immediately, but new locks are appearing everywhere. The question is, are you ready to carry that new key? The door to the world is still open, but the lock has changed. The U.S. passport, once a golden ticket, is now just a conditional invitation. It's not that the world is turning its back on Americans, but rather that countries want visitors to be better prepared, more respectful, and more integrated. If you don't meet these new expectations, you may find yourself standing before a door where the key no longer fits as snugly as it used to. Is this just a fair adjustment or a sign that the red carpet era is over? Please share your story or experience in the comments section. Have you ever had difficulty entering a country? Which country do you think will be the next to change its lock? And if you're wondering which countries still welcome Americans with open arms, please subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next video. This information is for general travel purposes only and is not legal or official advice. Entry policies can change at any time, so always check the latest information from government sources or embassies before planning your trip.